Picasso once said this. He said that all children are born artists. The problem is to remain an artist as we grow up. I believe this passionately, that we don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it. Or rather, we get educated out of it.
Writing is powerful. When you're struggling, writing can be cathartic. When you're joyful, writing can spread that joy. When you're not sure how you're feeling, writing can help you sort out the confusion. Unfortunately, students who are part of today's education system do not get to spend weeks on creative, therapeutic, self-expressive, and exploratory writing. Instead, they practice the formulated writing of the state test. And that's a shame.
About education, and I want to talk about creativity. My contention is that creativity now is as important in education as literacy, and we should treat it with the same status.
Creativity is as important in education as literacy. Sir Ken Robinson is a New York Times best-selling author and TED speaker who often discusses what education is and what education should be. One of his main contentions with education is that it lacks creativity. Students are not able to express themselves creatively. Creativity is as important in education as literacy. While it is an important skill, it is not enough to teach students how to simply construct sentences. We must teach them how to write, how to feel through writing, how to express themselves through writing, how to discover who they are through writing. When I was growing up, I was a pretty stereotypical shy, nerdy kid. I watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer and read 2 or 3 books at a time. And I wrote stories. I dreamt of being a published author one day. My stories were usually supernatural in some way, and almost always featured a female main character into whom I would funnel some of my own personality, and some of the personality that I wished I'd had. Writing helped me work through the plethora of emotions that come with puberty. It helped me figure out who I was and who I wanted to be. I grew up in a very small town where the local library was a tiny room in the municipal building. There was one librarian who was there every day. My mom would drive me to the library all the time so I could check out new books to read, but also so I could bring the stories I wrote. The librarian's name was Lee, and she read everything I brought to her. She always encouraged me to keep writing, to keep getting better, and to never give up on my dreams of publishing my work one day. I brought my writing to Lee because I knew she would read it. I didn't have the same confidence with my teachers. When we wrote in class, it was always essays and analysis. When I was a sophomore in high school, we finally had an assignment to write a short story. It was right after we finished reading Julius Caesar, and the only requirement was that the story would have a theme of betrayal. I remember how excited I was to finally be able to use my love of creative writing in class. I asked my teacher how long a short story was. His response was, "I think as long as it's between 1 and 99 pages, it counts." I'm still fairly certain that he was joking, but I took him seriously. I wrote a 23-page, 13,000-word story about a group of FBI agents who were betrayed by one of their own. We did an in-class peer review that meant 3 of my classmates would be reading my story. I'm pretty sure they hated me for making them read something so long when their stories were all only 2 or 3 pages, but I was ecstatic that I finally had an audience because I'd never had an audience in school before.
If you think of it, the whole system of public education around the world is a protracted process of university entrance. And the consequence is that many highly talented, brilliant, creative people think they're not, because the thing they were good at school wasn't valued or was actually stigmatized. And I think we can't afford to go on that way.
I believed then, and I still believe now, that students should have more opportunities to write creatively in class. I was lucky. I had an adult to encourage me. Without that local librarian, I may never have written as much as I did, and I would likely not be the same person I am today. I consider my creativity to be one of my greatest assets, but unfortunately I developed it in spite of my education, not because of it. We as teachers need to give students the opportunities to be creative.
The role of a teacher is to facilitate learning. That's it. And part of the problem is, I think, that the culture of the dominant culture of education has come to focus on not teaching and learning, but testing. Now, testing is important. Standardized tests have a place. but they should not be the dominant culture of education. They should be diagnostic. They should help.
In my experience as a teacher of 9th and now 8th grade English, the only writing my students have been able to do within the curriculum is expository. The thesis, 2 examples, conclusion, formula that students must adhere to on the STAR test. While I am not saying that students should not write this style, I contend that the formulaic writing of standardized testing should be put firmly on the back burner, where it will still be taught, just not as if it's the most important thing in the world. Teaching students to write creatively, to write about topics that they enjoy, will create better overall writers, and students will be better able to write the standardized essay. We need to stop stifling students' creativity and let them see and feel the power of writing.
TED celebrates is the gift of the human imagination. We have to be careful now that we use this gift wisely and that we avert some of the scenarios that we've talked about. And the only way we'll do it is by seeing our creative capacities for the richness they are and seeing our children for the hope that they are. And our task is to educate their whole being so they can face this future. By the way, we may not see this future, but they will. And our job is to help them make something of it. Thank you very much.